Yes, welcome to the lecture 10, that is a decision support system in agricultural production. So, as per the previous lecture, we have introduced about the crop model, what is crop model and the use of crop model, what is the application of the crop model, of course, know how this can be helpful as compared to field experiment. So, here you say the decision support system, decision making process in crop model. So, that we will be discussing here. You see the what is decision support system. So, crop modeling is also decision support system. So, this is as a model is the that mimic that real system behavior. So, a decision support system that is a computer based tool that integrates data, model and user interface. These three are very important, that integrate the data, model and user interface. As you see, we need the data management system, then we need a model, is a mathematical representation model, then user interface, that is a simulation and the way the data analysis is done. So, these are the three major components of modeling exercise. We have a data sets, database, we have a model and the user interface to support the decision making process. The purpose in case of the agricultural production system, so we have the different stakeholders are there. We have the farmers, of course, the policy makers, those they are the the end users we can say, because now the other stakeholder you can say the researcher, the scientists are there. So, they do use the model and after the model they make for the purpose is for the optimal strategy, the crop input management, and the users are the farmers or the policy makers. Farmers are the end users, the decision go to farmers, particularly as you discussed the previous class. So, managements for the weather based crop planning, the model can be used as an advisory for the weather based crop planning, that goes to farmer. Similarly, policy makers, if you go for the large scale simulations for a particular regions, for particular states in a country, then that gives the production of the whole scenario productions, then accordingly information goes to policy makers for the policy level decisions. If there is a production is a excess, then the expectations, or the production is a shortfall, then there is a government policy makers to advise the governments to take appropriate steps to take care of the excess productions or the shortfall in productions. So, that is what the model that helps the farmers, researcher, policy makers, that particularly for the at different levels, for the selection of the crops, management practices to optimize the productions, or the other infrastructure facility to take care of the production, you can say, as per the politician is involved. Then enable the data driven, timely and site specific decision making. So, farmers, particularly if you give the advice farmers in case of the weather based crop planning, so the information should reach the farmers. The farmers can get prepared and the decision level how to take care of the crops to avoid any losses because of the weather variability. Similarly, if the policy level decision, the information goes to policy makers and they can advise the government definitely to create the infrastructure, to make the infrastructure readiness as per the weather variability. If there is a shortfall in productions, they have to think after how to get the food grains from the other sources to avoid any type of the abnormalities or any type of the stress, or if there is a maximum the excess production, then they have the infrastructure should be ready for the storage of the excess productions. So, that type of the policy decisions, policy makers, it is helpful for policy makers also. And also there are many private players also, you can see the crops insurance schemes are there are many private insurance scheme. So, this will help the insurance peoples for the particularly for the judging of or the insurance for the farmers in case of the the weather variability, drought, flood conditions. So, for this you can say the core components for the modeling systems is the database management. We have the input data, this may be management data, this may be weather data, soil based inputs. We have the input data, database management systems. Then you have a model, robust models, where all the systems programmings are made. Then we have a user interface, where the outputs are the properly analyzed. It is a different type of the presentations, graphical presentations, visualizations, how the outputs can be analyzed. So, these three major components we can go for the system simulations. So, needs of the DSS in agriculture, that already I have discussed how what the use. So, that can be the DSS. The traditional decision making often depends upon experience, lacks precision and timeliness, but no, with some of the supporting tools. DSS is a supporting tools. If you use some mathematical relationship using the inputs and you get the output. So, different varying the inputs, you can get the variable outputs, that will help you for the quantitative evaluation of alternate management options. So, if you have the variable input options, so without going for the experiments or when you are planning for experiment for the next seasons, so you can make a assessment based upon the available management options, which management options can give the maximum yield, or that can negate or they can nullify the adverse effect of the climate. Any type of climate risk can be avoided. So, then also forecast the crop growth and yield and the weather impacts, that is a forecasting done because of the quantitative analysis. This makes optimization of resources. How we can make the resource optimization, that is a water, nutrient, because every resource we cannot go, even though I can see the particularly see the rice production, the farmers use the excess water, because water is rice is usually grown in the under the monsoon seasons, that is a wet seasons, and they keep on pumping the water in the field. Rice does not require pumping water, it needs only saturation. Saturation is enough, because saturation gives the higher yield as compared to flood water. The soil ecosystem is much better under saturated conditions. So, same for the nutrients. The farmers, they do apply nutrients without knowing what the nutrient content in the soil, how much nutrient requirement for the crops. So, if you see the understanding of the input management, nutrients should be applied exactly for meet the need of the crop, but the farmers they do not have the proper idea, because they do not have scientific knowledge. So, they do apply as per the earlier understanding, and sometimes it is excessive and sometimes it may be deficit as well. In case of excess application of nutrient, it is one way we are involving more cost of production, and that is also making pollutions. The high level of this particular nitrogen fertilizer, excessive fertilizer application, as we discussed in just previous class also, that causes the emission of greenhouse gases, pollution of the atmosphere, and also that causes the pollution of the groundwater also, contaminations. So, applying excess fertilizers, it does not make any enhancement productions, and moreover there may be loss of production, and there is a pollution, soil pollution, water pollution, air pollutions, and moreover the more cost is involved, the farmers get less profit, that decreases the profit margin with the excess application of fertilizer. So, we need the optimized site specific, the right fertilizer model, also model that gives answer how much fertilizer to be applied. Using the model scenario, you can have the different labels you can try. So, that can give the right levels of nutrient can be applied, so that you can maximize the production, and that support of the climate resilient sustainable farming, that is because just if you using model, if you optimize your resources, resource needs to be conserved and they are limited also. It does not mean that we have plenty of water available, we can go on applying the irrigation as much as possible. No, if you are applying the excess water, that will also make the pollution. You are adding you are spoiling the resources definitely, and because water is somebody is paying. I go to electricity pumping groundwater or the surface water, more energy involved there. You are putting more energy there, and putting excess water does not enhance the production. Putting the excess fertilizer does not enhance the production, rather they have the adverse effect on the environment. It is not a sustainable practices. So, using model, what we can do? We can arrive at a definite conclusion that what is the level of resource you can use, how you can optimize the resources, so that you can maximize production. So, that is the either the sustainable farming is a very model we can have a sustainability, we can have sustainable farming. Sustainable means, what is sustainable farming means? No? So, you can meet the need of the present generation without endangering the resource base for the future generations. So, you have to protect, you have to conserve resources, you have to make the responsible use or responsible consumptions of the resources. In agriculture, you have to apply the inputs or the resources at the site specific as per the need, not excess. Similarly, no deficit also. If you are applying deficit resources, you are losing production, which is not good also. We want to maximize productions, at the same time with the efficient use of resources. Resource should be optimally used, resource should not be wasted. So, these are the components as we discussed, the three major components. Database components, we have to give the proper inputs like the soil, weather, crop and the management data sets, soil data set, weather set, and we have the four files we are discussing, because soil file, weather file, management file, and we have also crop genotype, the fixed one, particular crop it has a genetic potential, and the sources on farm observations, sensors, satellites, research data set, that can be also we can keep informations. Model based components includes the particular model we discussed in a model, like we discussed there are few models we have given examples. So, they have the principles of the growth and yield simulations. They have used some of the models from modules, different modules are the water balance model, nutrient balance model, crop growth canopy curve models, how you can simulate the growth, respirations, photosynthesis, biomass, then yield partitioning. So, different models are there. So, that the different crops they have different many models are there. Then you can go for the economic and risk models for the cost benefit analysis. So, some models are linked to the economic parts. If you give the economic input cost, output cost, we can know the economic profit, the profit zones, the input management for the maximization of the profit. Then we have the the user interface, that means how the models are used, allow the users to input data, how the data entry, run simulations, how to make simulations, because the automatically as per the model modules, then visualization of the results, how you can see the results. So, these are the three components of the models upon the web based and mobile accessible for the field application. So, there are some models you can have the kind of model. So, these are the informations we need, the database management systems and the models and the user interface, how the input data, run simulations and the visualizations of these results. So, what I am to explain the information systems and the decision making in agricultural scenario. So, usually when the model development started, say knowledge engineering and domain relationship. What is say? The domains are the experts in the particular field as a agricultural scientist and engineer, and the knowledge engineering from the computer specialist, programmer or mathematician, they do join together. How the model development process takes place, to develop model, I told model is y equal to a plus b x, because you have the input data sets, the outputs, and to get the input output relationship, you develop that y is equal to b a plus b x. For developing that y is equal to a plus b, this is a model. In case of crops, it is a complicated, very complex systems. You have the growth simulation, developmental simulation, biomass simulation, respirations are there, yield partitioning is there, soil water balance there, soil nutrient balance is there. So, these are the several complex processes involved, and to develop a model particularly for the crops. So, we do experiment in the field as a well managed experiment for developing model, and also it takes long years, 2 to 3 years repeatedly experiments. So, we give the inputs, we get the data outputs, output in the time series, every stage we collect the biomass, every some time specific interval, we collect the crop growth, we understand the biomass, understand the photosynthesis, understand the partitioning of the biomass and yield components. So, that is done through repeated experiments in seasons after seasons, and also multi-locational experiments to know the real understanding about the input and outputs. So, that is what is a model development process that takes time. It may take 3 years, 5 years depending upon the objectives of the model, type of the experiment you have done, and the data what you are focusing, it may take time. So, once the model development process is not very easy or the quick steps. You need to have a good experiment, good quality data collections, then with the support from the programmers, the mathematicians, you develop that relationship, that is a model development, the input output relationship. Once you have the developed model is developed, then simulation output, that does not take time. This is a very quick process, like I told, to develop y is equal to a plus b x, it is a time taking. But once you develop that y will a plus b x, what simulation does? That solve that for any value of x, what could be the value of y. If you give a value of x is equal to 2, then what could be value of y. So, for that you make a programming only. You make a programming and a and b are the parameters. So, give the value of x, get the value of y. So, that is what the simulation process, where you have a computer programming, make it very easier, you can get the output, and that does not take time. Once the simulation process is ready, you put the value of x, you get the value of y. This is a very instant process, so it does not take time. So, that through this process what we do, we get lot of information. That is a modeling process. Once the model is ready, then you run the model, as you discussed, run the model, you get this simulation output. Simulation output is a very quick one, very quick process, it does not take more time. So, as per the input, you get the output. So, depends upon your quality of the input data. If you have a good input data, you get a good output and it give you understanding. If that means sometimes you say the output of the model, that depends upon the quality of your input data. When you are going for modeling exercise, make sure that your data quality is proper. If you have data quality, then you have a good understanding on the model output. If data quality is poor, your understanding on the model output will be very poor. So, you need that, because here when you go for output, you give the randomness, different input management practices, you get the output. So, that loop, this loop is known as the information system, where we get information, we get data, we get knowledge. That is a data science, where we get lot of informations. If you have a good model, is already validated model, and if you give suppose I want to know how the crop will respond to different nutrient management, different water management. So, if you have a good model ready, then I can try hundreds of the input managements on nutrient water, and I can see how the output is responding to each level of inputs, and also the timing of application also, that is also very important in crops. What time are applying and what level, and if you have other parameters, weather ready, that also gives a very better understanding, it is good understanding. So, in that case, if you play with the model with different input parameters, that gives a lot of informations, that gives a better understanding. Suppose you can that is what the advisory, once this stage is done, you generate information, generate data, you enrich your knowledge, then this once this is what you get the data from this model for different scenario analysis. If you use this much level of fertilizer, your yield will be this much. If you use fertilizer at this time, then this will be yield. If you use this much of water, this will give your yield. If you go on planting your crop particular window, this will give your yield. So many information can be generated using these inputs, And once you have the data, that means now you are reaching, you are making yourself enriched with information, data knowledge for a particular for different type of input management, you can say. So, in that case, once you have the information, then information has to be percolated to the end users. The end users are the decision makers or those who benefit, or decision maker you can say, policy makers you can say, or those who benefit may be your the farmers, maybe scientists, what maybe researchers working in the field, those beneficiaries. So, this information that should percolate to the end users. That is what say this simulation output should go to simulation use. But this is what the from model, once you have model developed, you can get the output. It is a very quick process, but the simulation output reaching the end user, there is a huge gap. So, this gap has to be bridged. That means what you say, many information we do generate, many informations are usable, all are useful information and many informations are usables. So, those informations must reach instantly to the end users, so that you can bridge that gap. That what you say, the technology developed and technology in use. So, there I can say there are many technology that have been developed. You see the use of technology that may be limited. So, how the technology can transfer to the end user? Technology can transfer to the farmer's field. There are many technologies are there that remains in the experimental station probably. So, technology does not percolate to farmer. So, there are some technologies that is just self driven. So, that is spread very quickly, very easily, but some technology you have to persuade, you have to, because good technology also there you have to bring it to farmers field, you have to test in farmers field, make that understanding farmers, so that farmers can make use of this one. So, there is a big gap. Simulation output or the simulation use or the useful informations can be percolated to the end users, how that can reach usable. That's this gap has to bridge, so that that makes a the global scenario, national scenario, you can say national scenario, how to improve production level. If most of technology can reach farmers field, affordable, reliable and acceptable technology that can reach there, the farmers can make use of this, and that can definitely enhance the national food grain baskets. So, where the modeling scenario now that can help how the decision maker, the decision makers or the policy makers. So, making the advice. Now, in India also we have the agromet field units where the advisory go to the farmers and in every week twice in a week. So, this decision making one should be advisory, seasonal advisory. The start of the seasons advisory should come, what type of crop as per the location specific, soil specific, crop specific. If you put market also, put the market in the loop, best market, what type of crop should be chosen, time of planting window to take care of the weather, any weather abnormalities, and also in seasonal advisory about the crop managements, nutrient management, water management, plant protection measure, very specific, so that the farmers should attain the maximum productions. So, the loss due to the weather or the pest outbreak should be minimized, and they should get a end-to-end solutions, and the other inputs whatever you are advising, the inputs should be available to the farmer. So, suppose the model gives some type of decision and the inputs, suppose farmer should grow such and such variety for a particular crop, and make sure that the government officials should make sure that that variety is available in the market and farmer can get that variety, or any medicine, plant protections, fertilizers, this should be accessible by the farmer. Then only you can have a production maximization with sustainability in the productions. So, with this what is you can see the working principles of the decision support system. This is what we say as a the data, then the model processing, we can have the model, then decision options, and also you say user feedback given for the model loop. We will discuss about the also classes in come, how the objectives of crop modeling simulation that discussed in detail there. So, step by process, it is the input data. So, you have the weather data, soil data, crop data, manual options should be there, or the 4 files the goes as models, as a weather file, soil file, crop genotype files and the management files. Run model and simulation, that say what you can, if you, as you discussed, if you have a model output, then you get the no yield, you will get the biomass, you get the research, that option, that takes very quick process. Analyze the outcomes, they compare the scenarios, then as per the input management, then the provide the recommendation, that is what decision making. No, once you got the inputs, once you have the model ready, then the decision making goes, the decision goes the decision, whatever decision you are taking, the decision should reach the end users. The end users, it may be policy makers, it may be the decision makers, it may be the scientists, it may be the farmers. So, the purpose for which the model is run, the data is created, knowledge generation has been done, that must reach the end user. So, we should not stop. Actually, many places what happens, the scientists or engineers, so using that model they get many interesting results, no, many understanding does come, and they do make a very good scientific publications, and they get name and fame at the international levels. No. But the information that has been generated, the information must reach the end users. End users, if it does not reach end users, then that becomes a partly successful, not fully successful, you can say. So, that is why the DSS can act as a interactive, and this as a adaptive learning tools that will improve the feedback. So, you give the input data, then the run the models, not only run the models, you have to analyze the outcomes, then analyze the outcome, run the model, you get the knowledge, you get the informations, then analyze the outcomes, then give recommendation, not necessarily exactly the model output. You make your own synthesis looking at the model output, then give recommendation to the farmers or the policy makers, decision makers, the end users, that recommendation has to go. So, that we can, the nation needs a sustainable agricultural practices. We need a good amount of productions, we need a healthy foods. The foods should not be contaminated with the pesticides, the free of pesticides, healthy foods, and also you need a good quality air to breathe, good quality water to drink also. No. So, this need a healthy atmosphere, free of the pollutions, and the soil should be also good soil, healthy soil. It has been seen the area where the soil is good, healthy soil, people live healthy, because the area where the soil is contaminated and people suffer from lot of diseases. So, that should not happen. We need a good atmosphere. So, these are the applications of DSS in agriculture. So, already you have discussed all. So, particularly for crop planning and the yield predictions, we go for the DSS, we go for the input management, irrigation scheduling, real time soil moisture and the evapotranspiration, check this one, go for proper irrigation scheduling, proper nutrient management, pest and disease forecasting, go for the pest and disease predictions, resource optimizations, land, labor and input resource optimizations, climate change adaptations, and the policy support. Definitely you go for the food security sustainability, based upon that to give. These are the areas where the crop models applications are there. So, the advantage of the this is provides a quantitative and evidence based decision making process, enhances efficiency. If you go crop models, go for the precise and the specific use of inputs, that enhance the efficiency and profitability. That also, that is interlinking with the spatial models, GIS remote sensing can have the yield variability map over different locations, and also that how the yield varies as per the input management, that we can have the crop yield map, and multi-objective optimization like yield and profit, that can be done through model. There are some limitations of this modeling, definitely discuss high quality data and proper calibrations, proper testing of model required before its use. Need technical training for use and interpretation, definitely we need the train the manpower, resource, human resources, so that they can use the crop models, generate the informations. I may not fully capture socio-economic variable small holder farmers. It is a I go for the large scale applications, particularly socio-economic conditions, profitability, that is a better implications, depend on the infrastructure and digital literacy. So, that is what say the models needs technical manpowers, those you can knowledge actually on this crop model use. So, you have to enrich your knowledge, and then you can go for the application of this. So, with this the key summary key takeaways, DSS in agriculture combines the data, you have the model and this the decision making process to improve the crop planning and the food production definitely. It bridges use of the model, bridges the gap between the field data and the farm management decisions. So that what decision you can take, proper decision using this field data and management decision to have maximized productions. It integrates the DSS tools with many remote sensing, GIS and AI based forecasting also, artificial intelligence also used to enhance the accuracy of these predictions. And in future the real time the mobile based DSS platforms will support this climate smart precision agriculture and sustainable food production. So, because now some models may not work on mobile because they are very powerful, need some programming. So, if it can be simplified, the only mobile based we go for the real time in management of irrigation management. So, we do that mobile based, but particularly running the model in the mobile platform, mobile if that becomes a very robust platform, then we can run, but it does not matter mobile, but you can go to computers, you can run the models and give decision to the farmers. With this I thank you all. Thank you.